Many Americans imagine daily life in England as familiar and predictable, but that expectation doesn't always match reality. Did you know that a simple walk through central London challenges the idea that British life is defined by old routines or a single culture? Picture a crowded city cafe at lunchtime. Alongside the usual English voices, conversations flow in Polish, Arabic, Mandarin, and dozens of other languages. Even London's iconic double-decker buses and city squares only hint at the range of experiences here. Americans often expect to step into a world shaped by tradition when they visit England, but the daily details tell a different story. This video unpacks 10 clear, often overlooked differences between life in England and the US. Each point draws from scenes you can see on busy streets, in shops, and from first-hand accounts in public forums, research, and real stories from travelers on both sides. It's a direct look at how things work, beyond cliches and tourist stereotypes. But before we continue, hit that like button and subscribe. Number 10. Language variety. In the US, English usually dominates conversations in public. In London, multilingual scenes are part of everyday life. Walk down Oxford Street at noon, and you'll hear French, Urdu, Portuguese, and Somali. In stores and on buses, staff switch between English, Polish, and Gujarati to help customers. Even small corner shops run on several languages. Decades ago, London's public spaces were more likely to echo mostly with English, but now the city reflects generations of global migration. While New York and Los Angeles have their mix of languages, English tends to be the main public language. In London, hearing multiple languages together isn't unusual, it's the daily norm. Americans often expect to blend in by speaking English and using a few local phrases. Instead, many are surprised to see that local means many things, and British culture includes dozens of backgrounds at once. Number 9. Train car size. In the US, subway cars in cities like New York are wide and tall, with space to stand and stretch even when crowded. In London, the older tube cars are noticeably smaller and curved. Tall riders brush the ceiling, and personal space shrinks at rush hour. The London Underground was designed in the late 1800s, when tunnels were barely big enough for 2 tracks. The compact cars have changed little, keeping tight dimensions for efficiency. In post-war America, transit was often about bigger doors, rapid growth, and wide platforms. Americans used to spacious stations or commuter trains in cities notice right away how close riders get on the tube. Navigating the cramped cars during the morning commute can feel unfamiliar, but most people adapt quickly. Number 8. Queuing rules. At busy tube stations in England, commuters line up in silent, patient order. When the train arrives, passengers let those inside exit before boarding. This routine is expected and quietly enforced by those around. Anyone who tries to jump the line will get sharp glances or an awkward, "excuse me." In US cities, the boarding process is different. During rush hour, people crowd the doors and press in, with less attention to who arrived first. Claiming a gap often feels like a competition rather than a silent agreement. Americans usually expect things to move fast and make use of small openings, so the English habit of queuing, even under pressure, stands out. It keeps chaos in check and brings a sense of order to busy travel. Number 7. Light switch logic. In England, flipping a light switch down turns it on. In the US, switches work in the opposite direction. Up is on, down is off. This difference comes from electrical standards set decades ago, but it's easy to overlook until you're trying to light a hallway at night and the switch won't work as expected. For Americans, habits built at home don't match the way switches work in British buildings. The difference is small, but it's a daily reminder that routines change by country. Number 6. Outlets with switches. In a British kitchen or living room, every electrical outlet has its own tiny red switch. To power a device, you plug it in, then flip the switch. Leave the switch off and nothing happens. No power at all. US outlets are always live. Plug something in and it turns on immediately. Americans seldom check for a second switch because they expect instant power from every socket. English switched outlets help control energy use and offer a safety benefit by cutting the current when not needed. This small extra step stands out, especially when charging a phone or running appliances. Number 5. Tipping practice. In England, eating out often means paying just what's listed on the bill. Tipping is reserved for special service or at higher-end restaurants, where 10% might be added. At many pubs or cafes, there's no tip line on the receipt, and staff aren't expecting more than a few spare coins. In the US, waiters and bartenders depend on tips of 15% to 20% as a central part of their income. For Americans, leaving no tip would feel rude, even for a simple meal or coffee. The English approach reflects higher base wages and less reliance on extra payments. Eating out in England can feel simpler, but many Americans aren't sure whether to leave a tip or not. Over time, the difference adds up in both savings and the way people relate to staff. Number 4. Cheese selection. Walk through an English supermarket and the cheese aisle might stretch the length of the store, filled with wedges and rounds named after regions. Red Leicester, Blue Stilton, Double Gloucester, Sage Derby. Many cheeses come from dairies within 50 miles, often with notes about their origins. In typical American chains, most choices are cheddar, Swiss, mozzarella, and a few imports or pre-shredded packs. Britain's local cheese traditions have survived in supermarkets and at weekly markets. For Americans, these options can feel both overwhelming and a little special, since many of the best-known British cheeses are rare or expensive at home. Everyday meals in England often include what would be considered gourmet or specialty cheese in a U.S. grocery. Number 3. Crosswalk habits. In the U.S., drivers stick to the right side of the road, and pedestrians are used to looking left before stepping into a crosswalk. In England, cars drive on the left, so the first safety check is to look right. At many crosswalks in London, large white letters spell out "Look left" or "Look right." These painted warnings are for visitors and locals alike. Americans who rely on years of habit sometimes check the wrong direction, which can be risky on busy roads. U.S. crossings usually come with electronic walk signals and a clear expectation for pedestrians to wait for the light. In England, the routine demands more conscious attention, as the rules flip and the habits must adjust. The adjustment isn't always easy, even after several days. Number 2. Bathroom taps. In England, especially in older homes, hotels, or public bathrooms, sinks often come with 2 taps. One is for hot water, the other for cold. Blending them usually means filling the basin or cycling between taps, since the hot can be almost scalding and cold near freezing. Mixer taps are becoming more common, but plenty of buildings stick to the older pattern due to regulations and plumbing from decades ago. In the U.S., single-lever mixer taps have been standard for decades, making it easy to adjust temperature on the fly. Americans expect the convenience, so coming across separate taps can feel inconvenient or outdated. The approach reflects older health codes in Britain, where keeping water systems apart was once considered safest. The result is a daily difference for anyone washing hands or face, especially on a cold morning. Number 1. Jaywalking attitudes. England and the U.S. flip their views on street crossings. In London, pedestrians cross roads wherever there's a safe gap, and police rarely intervene unless it's dangerous. The streets are busy, and pausing at a red light on a deserted road can turn heads. In the U.S., jaywalking is a ticketable offense in many cities, with fines up to $65 and constant reminders about following crosswalk signals. Here, the contradiction is clear. England expects strict order at bus stops and on train platforms, but trusts individuals to judge when to cross the road. The U.S. relies on formal rules and signs at the curb, but the system for lining up and boarding can be chaotic. This mix of enforcement and trust highlights the difference in social expectations. Americans who visit notice the change in how everyday order is managed and how much freedom or structure is handed back to people in small moments. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this.